welcome back to another grilling video, and today we're going to be doing this awesome little quick Mexican street taco food. It's going to be, let's call it Queso Rizo. We'll show you what the ingredients are here in just a minute, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on our pellet stove to about 250 degrees, maybe 300. I'm going to be cooking an iron skillet right over the fire pot. So let's get this turned on, and we'll get to the ingredients. I'm going to show you what this is. It's really a simple recipe, but it's absolutely delicious. You can have it on chips as almost like a dip, a very thick, creamy dip, or you can just dip a flour tortilla in it, grab some up, fold it in half, and have a wonderful, wonderful taco. So let me kind of talk a little bit about the ingredients. We're going to start with chorizo. Let me zoom in and show you how we're prepping that, because we're going to get that started on a pan. All right, we're up to about 250 degrees. We're just going to go ahead and put this right over the fire. I'm going to let that heat up a little bit. All right, while that pan heats up just a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and open up my chorizo. Now what I like to do is I like to cut it right at the thickest part of this sort of tube. Makes it that much easier to come out of here. Push it right out of the casing here, or out of the package. And then we're going to break this up. Kind of brown it like you would ground beef. I know it doesn't look great coming out of there, but it's delicious. Chorizo is just a spicy pork sausage. Very common in Mexican and Latin dishes. All right, for the rest of the ingredients, we want some queso Oaxaca. Now, queso Oaxaca is kind of a specialty cheese. You may find it if you have a Latin market near you. The closest equivalent to it is going to be like a buffalo-style mozzarella here in the U.S. I'm just using a regular shredded mozzarella cheese for quesadillas. That's going to be a really good one. If you don't have any of those, shred up some mozzarella would be just as good. Munster cheese has a nice smoky flavor, and that one is good with chorizo as well. So you have good substitutes here. I actually struggled to find queso Oaxaca near me. Now, keep in mind when you see the Mexican round cheeses, they almost all start with queso, which means cheese. So be careful. You don't want queso fresco or queso, some of the other ones. You definitely want queso Oaxaca. It's from the Oaxaca region of Mexico, and it's a very well-made, hand-spun mozzarella cheese. That's why the buffalo mozzarella is probably the closest equivalent. So we will have the cheese, the chorizo. We're going to chop up one small jalapeno, and we're going to add about a third of a package of Philadelphia cream cheese. That really does make it a little bit more creamy and gives it a wonderful, wonderful flavor. So let me kind of show you how we get the chorizo started, because that's going to be our first step. So with this all broken up and spread out, we're just going to go ahead and brown this. You'll notice this is getting a little hotter. I'm going to go ahead and just close this lid for a few moments. Just got to get this cooked all the way through. Since it's pork sausage, it's important that we do.
Over here. Yeah, right here. Hey, do me a favor. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell notification so you get notified of new videos. Thanks.
All right, while that's browning up, we're going to put that right in this little vessel to hold it for a little bit as soon as it's done. But we're going to start with a jalapeno pepper. Now, I'm going to dice this really, really small, and I am going to go ahead and fry these up a little bit so that they're not raw jalapenos. They get a little bit better flavor when they're fried up. It's the reason why we have this vessel. When the chorizo is done, we will put it right in here, and then we will actually saute up these jalapenos. As I mentioned, we're going to cut these jalapenos really, really small. So I'm going to cut these in some nice little strips right down this way. Use any kind of knife you want. I'm cheating here and just using whatever knife I had just because it's easy. But this gives you nice, very small chunks, and when we fry these up in the pan, they will be absolutely small, almost melt right in, so you don't end up with a big bite of a jalapeno at any point. All right, while we are waiting on our chorizo to brown up, I'm just going to go ahead and cut a little bit of this cream cheese. This will be wonderful melted into that, give it a nice sort of creamy texture. And I do like to cut the cream cheese up into smaller pieces. I just find it melts a little easier in the pan that way. Easier to stir through. All right, our chorizo is looking real nice, so I'm going to go ahead and take this out and put it right in that little pan just to hold it for a few minutes while we get our jalapenos going, and then we'll put this back in and be on our way. All right, so we've got our chorizo kind of wrapping up here. I'm just going to take this brown chorizo and put it right in this little pan just to hold it for a few minutes. By the way, we could have started with onions and jalapenos if you like those. That's certainly a good way to do it. The rest of the family doesn't care for onions, so we are not putting them in this, but I'm going to slice up a little bit of jalapeno. Now, one other thing to note, make this however you like it. It is really good with a little bit of mushrooms in it. That's another great variation on this. We're now going to go ahead and go in the pan and get our jalapenos just sweated out. All right, get these guys just pushed right on in here. Just keep moving these around in some of that nice chorizo grease that's in there. As these get close to being done, I'm just going to scrape a little bit of that chorizo fat out of there. I do that because while I like some of that flavor in there, I don't want it to be a very greasy taco. It's looking good. We'll go ahead and take our chorizo and put it right back in there. Close this down, let this get nice and hot again. All right, with our chorizo and jalapenos going, we have our cream cheese cut up. We have our queso quesadilla. Remember, queso Oaxaca is the best kind, or buffalo mozzarella. You definitely want a good, creamy, melting cheese. What you don't want is queso fresco or cojita. That's the crumbling cheese you put on top of something. It doesn't melt very well. I made that mistake once before making this. Queso fresco tastes good, doesn't look very good because it's not gooey, not melty. When you get your cheese, it's best if you go ahead and grate it up or grind it or cut it in very small pieces. It just melts easier. So I actually bought a shredded cheese. This is going to make it very easy to melt. So we'll be doing it that way. You may also notice we are not going in with a lot of seasoning. That chorizo has such good, rich Mexican seasoning. It's going to flavor the cheese. It's going to make it a little bit greasy as you eat these tacos. They are absolutely wonderful. And we're going to put about 1.5 times the amount of chorizo we put in there. That start mixing up or melting, and then we'll add some more in there. We'll close this up and let it heat up a little bit. And this really is an easy dish to do. You just want to stir it every so often. What I like to do is close the lid of the grill a little bit, let it warm up. It starts to get nice and melty. You start to see some of the grease and the oil from the chorizo working its way to the top. Mix it up again, and then let it just sort of warm up. What you want to do is get this really well mixed. If you find it's a little bit too thick, don't hesitate to add a little bit of sour cream or crema, right, the Mexican version of sour cream, or a few little tablespoons of milk, just enough to thin it down so it melts and moves around and mixes a little easier. But we want it to be sort of thick. When we grab a tortilla and we grab some of this filling to fill it up, we want it to be somewhat dense, right? We don't want it running all out the sides like a liquid queso cheese would be at a Mexican restaurant where you dip your chips in. That's not necessarily what we're looking for. So this is just about ready. Let me pull it off the grill. I'll put it right here and we'll show you what it looks like. Look at this here. That's exactly what we want to see. Look how nice and melted that is. It's not sticking to the bottom. You can see that chorizo grease just sort of bubbling up right through it. And that is looking good. Mix this up if you want. You can see nice and thick. All right, so this looks phenomenal. It's going to be unbelievably hot, but you just want to take a nice fresh tortilla. If you want to heat it up a little bit, you can. Don't let them get toasty, just warmed up only. So I just grabbed this one off the grill. Show you what we do. We're just going to drop this right down inside of our queso Rizo. We're going to pinch it up like this. Then going to turn and fold it over. We want some of that queso Rizo to break here. Look at that. Look how cheesy that is. Oh my Lord, that looks good. Fold that back in there where we need to. And if you feel like you need to add a little bit more to a section of it, well, by all means, go right ahead. There we go. And there we have our quesorito. And there we have it. Look how good that looks. And I want to see what it kind of looks like on the inside. Just cut that right down. Take a look at that in there. That looks phenomenal. And we'll go ahead and give this a shot. The spice from the chorizo, the creamy meltiness of the cheese tastes absolutely phenomenal. Queso Rizo tacos. This is some kind of good. This is the kind of thing you can just leave sitting over low heat out on a grill or in the stove, and each person just comes up, grabs themselves one or two. It's great for a party because it's real easy to do. You don't need utensils or anything else. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how we did Queso Rizo tacos. Again, you can use this as a dip, put it on chips, put it on top of burritos. You can do almost anything you want with it, but it is phenomenal as a taco filling. Bye, y'all. Safe and happy grilling. We'll see you next week. Bye now.